Thanks for joining us on the program. The State's Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program is part of efforts by the federal government to enhance the transparency and accountability in the use of public resources and strengthening fiscal management at the subnational levels, and is expected to cover the fiscal performance of states. But states have to also meet the criteria of eligibility for the grant by meeting any or all of the 9 indicators that demonstrates improvements in fiscal transparency, accountability and sustainability, including publishing of the state's annual budget and audited financial statement within a specific framework, an offshoot of previous fiscal sustainability plan of the federal government, where states were rewarded for meeting up to the 22 targets, which have now been redesigned as the 9 disbursement-linked indicators under the SFTAS. In the year 2012, no fewer than 32 states benefited from the World Bank Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Plan, with 4 states missing out, namely Bayelsa, Imo, Rivers, and Zamfara got 0. That is in the year 2021 allocation due to their inability to meet the 2019 eligibility criteria. Now there is an increase for benefiting states compared to previous years. This is an indication of wider acceptance of the concept that heralded new era of transparency and accountability at the subnational level. So, how can the program ensure effective mobilization and utilization of these financial resources for citizens to benefit? How can fiscal risk be reduced and encouraged fiscal responsibility behavior by state actors? Is the program timely, given the dwindling government revenue occasioned by oil price volatility, coupled with the impact of the COVID-19 ravaging economy across the globe, which has further intensified the need to successfully adapt and implement this program by states to strengthen their capacity to respond to the numerous fiscal challenges in their respective domains? Well, these are indeed thought-provoking questions raised by and will be addressed by our panel of our discussants. I am Omini Udan. Once again, welcome to the program. But first, let's take this background report put together by Leah Katun Babatunde.
Introduced in 2017, the State's Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program for Results, SFTAS, is a brainchild of the federal government in collaboration with the World Bank to strengthen fiscal transparency, accountability and sustainability in Nigerian states. It is financed with a $750 million loan from the World Bank to support the states through the provisions of performance-based grants, for which $700 million was earmarked. The balance of $50 million was set aside for the financing of technical assistance to enable the states achieve specified disbursement-linked indicators, DLIs, towards qualification for the grants.
The DLIs are derived from the already established 22-point Fiscal Sustainability Plan, the FSP, by the federal government, and also from the Open Government Partnership, OGP, commitments of Nigeria. This is aimed at strengthening the desired fiscal reforms at the subnational level, and the participation in the program is open to all states of the Federation, including the FCT. It is an important program to the government, and all hands must be on deck to ensure its success.
In 2018, 24 states made the eligibility list. The federal government in April 2020 disbursed the sum of 43.416 billion naira, which is equivalent to $120.6 million to the 24 states after an annual performance assessment. Top on the beneficiary list is Kaduna State, while Katsina and Benue were the list.
I get monthly briefings in Kaduna State on all our projects, where decisions are needed, where I need to push the Ministry of Finance, I do it, and that's why we got some recognitions for our level of coordination.
The grant enabled states to meet fiscal demands as captured in the Sokoto experience, with a boost to the portfolio of the implementing teams.
After achieving what we did I think everybody that was part of the team, got promotion. Most of the civil servants got promotion to a higher level, and which motivated the team to even do more. So I believe going forward, God willing, Sokoto is going to even double, it's already doubling its efforts.
The second tranche was worth 66.5 billion naira. It was paid in November 2020, and this time around, only Rivers State missed out. The disbursement to eligible states was on the basis of the amended COVID-19 responsive 2020 budget results achievements, and each of the 35 states received 1.9 billion naira, equivalent of $5 million. In Abuja, Leah Katungbaba today.
State Fiscal Transparency and Accountability Program is the focus of the program tonight. And Leah Katungbaba Tunde's background sets the tone for the takeoff of the program. It's Tuesday Live. At some point, our phone lines will be open. If you follow to the program, you put in your call, make your point, and go to the point. Please, in doing this, turn down the volume of your television set to avoid the holdback. Also, you can be part of the conversation tonight through our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. Also, we'll be taking reports across parts of the country, or to sustain the conversation and bring us up to speed on how the states are faring regarding this program. I'm being joined tonight by His Excellency Kayode Fayemi, the Governor of Ekiti State, and he's here in his capacity as the Chairman, Nigeria's Governors Forum. Good to have you on the program.
Pleasure to be here.
Mr. Shubham Chaduri, Country Director, World Bank. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Thank you.
And in the course of the program, other guests will join us via Zoom as we progress. Let's begin with just the two of you for now. Beginning with the World Bank, an average Nigerian will be asking, why is the World Bank supporting Nigeria in strengthening state fiscal management?
So I think the answer, if you ask most Nigerians, which part of government do you encounter every day? Which part of government do you look to deliver the services that you need, whether it's schooling for your children, healthcare for your families, making sure that the roads are there to connect farmers to the market. In all of these, it's the states and local governments that really have to deliver for the people. So if you look at Nigeria's constitution, if you look at the actual reality, it's the states that bear the responsibility and are in the front lines in terms of delivering these services, essential services for ordinary people, families, households. So helping the states deliver better for the people is part of what we're here at the World Bank to help all our member countries do. It's ultimately about helping our member countries eliminate poverty, and a big part of that is investing in people, helping countries invest in people, build the infrastructure that's needed, and create the space for families, households to reach their aspirations. So,
because why I ask is most times when people hear the World Bank, beautiful programs, but they hear there's always some hidden charges somewhere.
Charges in what sense?
You know better what I mean.
Actually, one of the things this program is called transparency. So one of the things our policies and procedures, and our shareholders. Nigeria is one of 189 countries that are shareholders of the World Bank. So we're a development cooperative. Think of it. Nigeria owns the World Bank, and like any development cooperative, we're here to serve our members. So transparency. Everything that we finance, every kind of activity that we support is open, there's public disclosure. And in fact, part of the reason that we hope that Nigerians, people, your audience today, will actually reach out and learn about our program. They're all available. And that is part of what we count on also to ensure that the financing we provide, which is concessional, meant to help promote poverty reduction and development. So it's not meant to generate commercial returns, therefore the financing itself is concessional. But to make sure that it's used for the right reasons, we need citizens, ordinary people to pay attention. How are these funds being used? So transparency is a buzzword for us. So.
Thanks for that. Your Excellency, the Nigerian Governors Forum collectively is seen in the picture. You really will see maybe in terms of maybe assessing state performance, but in accessing this, you went in there collectively. Would you say this has impacted positively in the states?
Absolutely. You need to know the history of the Nigerian Governors Forum. This is a forum that is non-partisan, and it's an association of all governors. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is that we use the forum as a mechanism for peer learning. SFTAS offered us that opportunity because the disbursement-linked indicators that were identified in the process leading up to this program were such that would enable us to compare notes and improve on our performance, be it budget preparation and audit reviews, financial statements publications, reduction in leakages, improvement in our tax performance, and in our level of accountability. And that is what we were able to do. And because it is program for results, it is your result that will determine what you benefit. And it's a grant. At least it's a grant to us as states. It's a loan from the World Bank to the federal government of Nigeria. But you also need to understand the context of this. When it happened in 2018, it was as a result of the pressure that had been put on state finances as a result of the recession, the 2015-2016 recession that we encountered, which led to the gracious support that states received from President Buhari and the federal government. Budget support, bailout. You remember many states couldn't even afford to pay salaries because of that recessionary experience. But these were debts. These were debts to the states. There's still debts that are on our books, but there were deferments of payments, of interest, and there were a whole range of mechanisms put in place in order for us to be able to stay afloat as states. And it was in that context that the World Bank, working with our own Federal Ministry of Finance, came out with these initiatives, working with us as well at the Nigerian Governors Forum to determine the eligibility criteria, the capacity building processes, and the accountability framework. And I think it's something that states have been particularly grateful to all that have been involved in this for, because right now, 2 years down the line, okay, we've had 2018, we've had 2019, 2020, now, almost from 24 states that met the eligibility criteria in 2018 to 36 states that actually published their budgets on time this year, 2021 budget.
Now, the worry is if the NGF went in collectively and we still had states that were not eligible, even if they're eligible, they don't still meet eligibility, they don't meet up at the end of the day. Is the NGF worried? If you went into a platform...
Ideally, we would love all states to meet the eligibility criteria, and we've made not a regression, not a regression from 24 states that started or that were qualified in 2018 to 32 states in 2019 to 6 states that have at least on the first level of qualification for 2020 have all met the criteria of published budgets.
Okay. We hope in the course of the program, the Minister of Finance and Budget will join the program and give us maybe an overview so far. She's the one driving it in between the World Bank. And now, let's look at the success story. Now, from what you've seen, would you say that multi-state results-based program is really, really on track and sustainable, even after the World Bank pulls out?
I think that's...
Because what I'm saying is that there is something that is strong here, transparency. Transparency is like Governor has said, tax governance, budgeting, all that. If at the end of the day, fund and World Bank pulls out, do you see it being sustained after them?
So I think there are two types of sustainability. One is the sustainability in terms of how state governments go about their business. Do they retain the transparency, the openness, the focus on accountability? That, I think some of the things that have been done will just, once they've been done, they will continue, okay? Some of them, these practices to continue will depend on the public also becoming involved in this. So a lot of the civil society organizations now are aware of this program and are now starting to pay attention to what the states are doing. So that sustainability will come from citizen engagement. The other part of the sustainability is the financing, right? So there, I think it's really about everyone should not be thought of as anything other than a source of funds for the government's budget, for the federation's budget. At this point, because there's a financing need, we're happy to step in and provide concessional financing. But the longer term vision is for that fiscal sustainability to, for Nigeria to be much stronger on that front. And you will hear the Honorable Minister of Finance talk about this. There, it's about internally generated revenues. So you imagine a situation where the federal government's revenues as well as the state's revenues increase, then this kind of program in other areas, say delivery of water and sanitation services or provision of basic education, you could see a lot of these programs being results-based, incentivized, okay, where the federal government and the states have a mutual accountability arrangement. So,
okay, I hear the Honorable Minister for Finance is up, and we'll go to her if she's up now. We're being joined by her via Zoom in Abuja, Zainab Ahmed. Good to see you on the program tonight.
Good evening, everyone.
Through listening to the Chairman Nigerian Governor Forum and the Country Director of the World Bank, beginning with you, simply will ask, can you give us an overview where it all started, where we are, and where we hope to be?
The SFTAS program was brought about due to the crisis that we had in 2015, 2016. At that time, it was the slump in the crude oil price, causing our economy to go into recession in 2016. And there was this huge revenue gap that had put the states and the federal government under significant fiscal strain. To the extent that at the time the president took over, about 23 states were not able to pay salaries. So the president had designed measures to support the states. But part of the conditions for supporting the states was that the states themselves needed to take some measures to strengthen their public financial management systems and enhance going forward the better fiscal governance for the states. So the government designed a fiscal sustainability plan with 22 points that the state needed to meet, and each state had made commitments that was peculiar to it, what it was able to achieve. So things like they'll be preparing their budgets in good time annually and publishing the budgets. They'll prepare their financial statements and get them audited and publish them, cleaning up the payroll, making sure that there's biometric capture to make sure that the payroll is clean, that you're actually paying for people that are in place and working. So the states made those commitments, and as a result of those commitments, we saw the fiscal performance of the states improving. And the World Bank had provided support in designing the fiscal sustainability plan and was quite impressed by the achievements and the progress that the states have made. So in addition to the fact that the federal government gave the states salary bailout funds, and also infrastructure funds in the form of a loan. The World Bank now offered this grant, the first tranche of $750 million that was supposed to be to incentivize the states to do more, and that you get part of the grant only when you meet the disbursement link indicators, which was designed with the states and committed to each state had its own unique DLIs. So that's how this started, and it became very popular. The interesting thing is we saw even more improvements in the fiscal condition of the states, their public financial management improved. And there was also competition that this program has brought about, because each state was trying to access the fund, because you were not limited on what you could access as long as you are able to perform and show the performance after the audit. The performance is assessed, then you access the fund. So there was interesting competition and also collaboration with the states, and a lot of peer learning between the states. So this is a program that has done so well that, again, the World Bank agreed to do another top-up of $750 million US, which is just in December or November approved by the World Bank Board, and it's been approved also by the Federal Executive Council. And we're waiting for approval of the National Assembly, and the states can also begin to access the second part of this $750 million SFTAS program.
Okay, thank you so much for the update. Now, Your Excellency, from what the minister has expounded, we could hear words like competition among states, meeting timelines, and what have you. From the perspective of results achieved, would you say this has added impetus in terms of restoring trust, corruption, and maybe project deliverables by states?
Well, first and foremost, governors are elected to serve their people. The most critical way in which you can serve your people is to deliver on the promises you've made. Just as Shubham said, the bulk of the social services, states are at the front line. Health, education particularly. And these are things that matter to our people. So I can tell you categorically that this program has led to much more efficient use of our resources. I mean, resources are not infinite. They're limited, and they even put under much more pressure by the fiscal constraints that states are experiencing in the aftermath of the recession I spoke about, and much more so in the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic. So the limited resources that are there, you have to put it to good use. And the DLIs, the disbursement-linked indicators that the Honorable Minister spoke about, made it necessary for states to really do their utmost to deliver more bang for their bucks. So if it is leakages in terms of salaries, ghost workers, and you've put in place an integrated payroll system that links your biometric data with the BVN registration document, you know that you are likely to eliminate those who are not supposed to be earning salaries legitimately. So there are savings made from that. If you implement a national chart of accounts in preparing your budget, and you've done it in an IPSA, IPSA compliant way, you also know that you're not going to be doctoring audits, because this is prepared in accordance with international standards. And states have met that in the states that have qualified in the eligibility criteria. This is not to say that states were averse to this before SFTAS. I mean, states like Ekiti, Kaduna, Edo, and a number of states have been involved in open governance partnership. I've had Freedom of Information Act in place long before SFTAS came, but SFTAS has encouraged us to collectively act in a manner that puts accountability and transparency front and center in all that we do. So on that, you can give a lot of kudos to the World Bank and the Federal Ministry of Finance as partners in this. And we've also, it's enabled us to build capacity. That's where the Governors Forum has played a very critical role. We've been the fulcrum of the capacity building exercise for states that have not come up to scratch, with the support of the bank and the Ministry of Finance, and we're where we are, and we believe this can only deepen the process, particularly in relation to that question you asked earlier, sustainability after this. I mean, you know, governments and governors, we're more attuned to electoral cycles, unfortunately, because we are here for a specific period, 4 years or at most 8 years. So whatever you can get done in that period, you're very wary of doing it. But once it's about systems, processes, and procedures, that ought to be able to guarantee sustainability over the long time. It's also about building a culture, working with civil society, working with the legislature. Many of the things that we've done, we've had to put in place new legislation on public procurement, for example. Virtually all our states have put in place legislation on public procurement, so that it's not just something that you do in a whimsical or capricious manner. It is following particular processes that are also compliant with global standards. And these are likely to be sustained, even when the particular government responsible for that is no longer in office. And if it is not, it is expected that the citizenry will demand for you to continue to act appropriately in a manner that serves their own interest.
From the angle of competition,
Yeah.
not unhealthy competition, but
Very healthy, very healthy.
I still come from the angle of, we went into this platform as a body, Nigerian Governors Forum, and you have talked about the fact that the Nigerian Governors Forum is not partisan.
We're not partisan.
You're there.
We're a peer learning institution.
Beautiful. Do you bother to maybe call to order these states that maybe they're in violation, or the ones that are not even eligible up to now?
Well, no state is in violation.
Looking at the lofty ideal behind this.
Let's put it this way. No state is in violation. It's not a bean counting exercise.
Okay.
It's not a ranking exercise. Oh, this state is first, this state is second. No. But it's a learning exercise. So Sokoto did very well, for example, in the last exercise. And I had to call the governor of Sokoto. Tell me, how did you get this score on this particular DLI, and you went away with $2.5 million? Those kind of questions arise from governors to governors. And that's the essence of the program itself. It's a healthy competition. You learn from colleagues in areas where they've done well and you haven't done as well. And they learn from you in areas where you've done well. And there are different disbursement-linked criteria for this.
Okay, let me stay on you, Mr. Shubham. Disbursement link indicators, can you break it down for the common man to understand?
Sure. I think think of it as the funds follow once the results have been verified. It's as simple as that. So you can think about financing something upfront, saying, oh, this is the financing for a government to go do X. So what happens often is that it may take much longer. Maybe the funds don't actually end up being used for the purposes they were intended. And that's often, as you might imagine, we often get asked that question at the World Bank, saying, you're financing, how are you ensuring that this is actually helping the Nigerian people? Okay, or are you just saddling debt on the country? So our response is, look, our intention is very clear. This kind of program for results actually takes a step towards ensuring that the financing we're providing actually used in a way that was intended for the benefit of the people, because the financing actually will not be forthcoming until the results have been delivered. In this particular case, for this program, the results are about fiscal management, about accountability and transparency. But the basic idea of a program for results, you can apply to anything. For example, we're working on something right now which is about delivering water and sanitation facilities. There again, it's results-based financing, that if a state manages to provide more water connections, water points, especially in rural communities, or build water facilities in urban areas, then the financing will flow once it's been verified. So that's the basic idea. I think most people will understand this. It means that...
I understand you perfectly clear, like others are understanding you. Are you thinking towards health, the health sector too, besides water and sanitation?
Yes, absolutely. So in fact, the bulk of our financing, current financing, is actually what I would consider investments in human capital. Okay, and that is what the federal government has asked, has prioritized. Ultimately, decisions about where we provide our financing are based on the priorities of the government itself, both at the federal level and the collective, all the states. So what the government has asked us for our financing is human capital, so primary health care, basic education, getting more children, and especially adolescent girls, the girl child, back into schools. It's supporting farmers. So healthcare, basic education, and especially, and then digital skills, literacy, things like that for everyone, to help the youth. So I would say about 50 to 60% of our financing is, and then both current as well as what we are in discussions about, are about human capital. The rest, I would say, are in terms of things that will help job creation by the private firms.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the Minister of Finance. Honourable Minister, from the testimony so far, one will expect that given the adaptable nature of this program, even after the World Bank leaves, we see maybe a synergy created between your ministry or the federal government and the states through the NGF to replicate it and carry on from here, giving it transparency. But before I say, how do you intend to do this? When Nigerians hear about loans, a lot of antennas get raised. This loan, what is so peculiar about this particular loan? And why is this so special and is working? Are there any minuses to the economy?
This is a loan that the federal government has taken from the World Bank and is being granted to the states. So it's not a loan to the states, it's a loan to the federal government, which means federal government will be paying for this loan. What we are getting, the benefit that the country is getting from this is that there's increased transparency and accountability by the states. And it's very important because the states form the largest portion of the federating units. And an economy cannot grow if the whole of the federation is not working well together. So there's increased openness, and this process is enabling citizens' engagement in budget process. There's improved cash management in the sense that most states now have TSA accounts, and also their IGRs are improving as a result of several processes that they committed to, and they're actually implementing. They did this biometric registration and therefore reduced cost of payroll and improved procurement processes, so we're getting more value for money, and strengthen public debt management and ensuring fiscal responsibility. There's also improvement in the clearance of domestic debts, arrears of domestic debts. This program, even though it's been supported by the World Bank, was initiated by government, between the government and the states. When the fiscal sustainability plan was designed, it was meant for the federal government to provide funding to the states, and it worked in the sense that the states complied with some of the key requirements of the PSP, and they got those loans. And as a result of getting those loans, there was continuous reviews in form of audits of the commitments that they made to the federal government. So it's the same principle that the World Bank took over, came in and provided more resources, and we agreed to take a loan so that we continue to work with the states to ensure that this improvement that started in the public financial management space continues, so that we don't lose the benefit of what has been started. So when the World Bank facility is ended, the improvements that we have reached are there, the capacity development that has been attained for the staff and of the states is there. We will get the full benefit of it. The savings that have been made as a result of reducing wastages will have been used to invest in human capital as well as other developmental projects in the state. The second phase of SFTAS was designed to further support the states to manage the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and which means the largest proportion of the investment was going to be on human capital, specifically on health, and in some part on education. Again, this is extremely useful. So the states will use their own resources to undertake improvements, let's say in a primary healthcare center, and the improvement that is done is audited, and then they get this grants as a result of having performed a function which is rightly supposed to be performed by the states for the benefit of the people. So this is a program that everybody is actually happy about, and it's a win-win situation for us. The World Bank is happy. I'm sure Shubham is here, that they are seeing positive improvements in human capital development as a result of this intervention from the World Bank.
We take a couple of reports today. We shall be going to Jigawa, Ebonyi, Cross River, and Sokoto. We begin with the report from Jigawa.
It is on record that Jigawa state government has so far received over 11 billion naira from the World Bank-supported States Physical Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program. The 4 years result-oriented program, which first phase is coming to an end this year, has improved the standards and quality of governance along the focus areas of the program. To this end, Jigawa State has been rated the best performing state in the Budget Transparency Index in 2018 and repeatedly same position in 2020. The state is one of the few others which provide extensive budget information through effective mechanism for public consultations.
This program was introduced by World Bank just to prepare states to inculcate the fiscal discipline and the issue of public financial management, to have a very sound public financial management in states. And for us, really, in Jigawa, we are known for this, and definitely even beyond SFTAS, this will be sustained.
Looking at the 9 disbursement leak indicators shows increased citizens' engagements in the budget process, implementation of Treasury single account, boosted internally generated revenue collections, biometric registration and BVN to produce payroll fraud. The policy, therefore, improved procurement practices, strengthened debt management, clearance of domestic expenditure arrears, and improved debt sustainability.
Our team have done wonderfully well in SFTAS. We are #1 in the country on the grant of SFTAS. Jigawa gets $16.9 million as grant from SFTAS, being the first state in the country.
Governor Muhammadu Badru Abubakar's penchant for prudence management of state resources and ensuring transparency in government's dealings made it possible for the state to get over 11 billion naira out of more than $1.4 billion federal government received from the World Bank in 2 tranches.
From Jigawa, our next stop tonight will be Ebonyi, Abakaliki.
The implementation of the State Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program in Ebonyi State with prudent management of resources entrenched a policy that has significantly reduced corruption in civil service and boosted the revenue base of the state. The Commissioner for Finance and Economic Development, Mr. Orlando Wenze, said the funds assessed so far has been properly channeled to the construction of Ebonyi International Airport and the State College of Medicine and Teaching Hospital. Mr. Orlando, who expressed the state government's interest to be part of the second phase, described the program as strengthening capacity, technical support, as well as making the citizens to be part of governance.
Funds, expected funds, were equally being planned to be used for the equipment at the international airport, Ebonyi International Airport, and of course the Ebonyi College of Medicine, which is ongoing currently. However, as far as the program is still on, we are very much interested in following through, because beyond the grants we're getting, the program is equally helping to strengthen the system. It's helping to build capacity through the technical support we've gotten from the World Bank, from Ministry of Finance, from the Nigerian Governors Forum. So we've been able to strengthen the capacity within the states.
Appreciative of President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration for attracting the initiative, some of the respondents said the ongoing projects, when completed, will not only launch Ebonyi in the Committee of Nations, but will make life more meaningful and comfortable for the people of the state.
When this is fully completed, it will trigger job creation. So we are thinking that with these two facilities, we will have much more job, and the unemployment will be reduced to the barest minimum.
View of economical benefits, huge one, and it will sell Ebonyi State to the whole world.
We that are Eza people, where it's located, has already made Eza to appear in the world map.
Each of these development is interconnected to facilitate the development of the state into a first-class state of Nigeria.
With the program helping to reduce unemployment ratio in the country, the people are of the view that the youth restiveness will also be addressed.
Those two reports from Jigawa and Ebonyi State sustains the conversation. A couple of tweets have begun to come in now, but let's be specific now. Mr. Shubham, are there no go areas in terms of what the funds should be used for?
At this point, the way that this program works is that we support the state government's budget. The actual disbursements occur based on all the results that you heard His Excellency the Governor mention, and also the Honorable Minister. And then it's meant to be expenditures within the framework of the civilian budget. I think that's the main thing, and all documented. For example, the supplemental budget that most of the states finalized and had approved by the state legislative assemblies by, I think, July of last year. If you go on there, you actually see on the front page, there's even a summary of how the supplemental budget is being used for the socioeconomic response to the state. So I think part of the test is, I'll be very frank here, is to see how, I would love to hear how ordinary citizens are seeing. Are they seeing this in terms of the increased transparency? You know, the budgets are now available. Start asking questions. You know, are these the right places to be for public spending to be directed? Are there other places? So from our side, what we're trying to do is to encourage, and I think the federal government is trying to encourage, prudent fiscal management, transparency in spending decisions, but the actual spending, and then, you know, putting them towards improving the quality of spending in ways that will benefit the people. But in terms of the actual details, in this state, what makes the most sense, that's really for the citizens and the legislatures, and obviously...
That's where I'm coming from. If I go to His Excellency. Now, transparent, no doubt, but what if maybe His Excellency chooses to use his own allocation for some ambitious project that will end nowhere, as much as he's going to execute the money transparently?
So this is the other part. You know, the accountability has two sides. There's the demand side and the supply side. Okay. What this program does is provide the supply side, meaning governments, state governors, state governments being very transparent about, having to be very transparent about how they're using scarce public funds. The demand side, it's for the citizens, the CSOs, to also come in and weigh in. So this program cannot do both things at once. This program is very much about opening up and being responsible. It's based, as the Honorable Minister said, on the fiscal responsibility. So, but there's always going to be a role for citizens to come in and hold governments accountable.
Okay. Now, Excellency, from what he has explained, let's look at from the angle of prudence. How best can I describe it now? Now, you have, the process is transparent, but in terms of costing, how really prudent are we costing these projects? So I could go around, because most times you could hear this TMOG ordinarily costs this much. But when it gets to public governance, the price gets almost like 5% or 20% higher. So in terms of prudence, how do you assess it? How do you weigh into it to ensure that it goes all through?
Well, there's no question that one of the challenges that we face in governance in Nigeria is trust deficit between the citizens and the recipients of these various projects and the leaders responsible for delivering on the projects. And your question is at the center of that. What is cost effective? And naturally, you're going to have variations. But one of the reasons behind having a common public procurement laws is that you can also, generally speaking, investigate price index. I mean, there may be local specificities. I mean, the road you build in Bayelsa, clearly, because of the nature of the terrain, may be costlier than the road you build that you construct in Kano, because the terrain is also clearly hardier and maybe easier to construct on it. But even on balance, you can still determine whether something is outrightly outrageous or reasonable within the frame of universal pricing.
Okay.
So you can have that. But you asked the question from Shubham about the budgetary. If you were to take, I think it was 2020 budget, the 2020 budget, because of the fact that many states subscribed to SFTAS, we were able to have a reduction in light of the recession and the oil price reduction as a result of the pandemic. Collectively, from a budget size of about 9 trillion to about 6 trillion, and using the same criteria, checked out also by the Governors Forum Secretariat. We're able to do that and put to better use that reduced budget to deliver much more identifiable results at the local level. So you are bound to have that. But the important takeaway from this for us is if it increases the level of trust the average citizen has in government, then we would have achieved a significant portion of that transparency interest that SFTAS is promoting. And I can tell you, if you go to any of the state websites, you can see contracts awarded, what they were awarded for, the duration. You can see such details which may not have been there 3 years ago in many states. But that information is available. But you can also have information available in an unintelligible manner. So you have to have it in a way that breaks down for the ordinary citizens who were there when you were putting the budget together, because part of the way SFTAS runs also is to ensure citizens' participation in budget formulation and budget making. So all of these are exercises that I believe are going to be sustained over the long term. And it's bound to help the process of accountability and transparency in government.
The other aspect of it is quite interesting is the area where we're looking at. Key to this are the subnational, are the states.
Absolutely.
Are the local governments involved?
Absolutely.
Do they really understand this? Because when we talk about 3 tiers of government now, states, federal, and the local government, and we say that is the most.
As a matter of fact,
yes,
there is a disbursement indicator that promotes budgeting at the local government level as well.
Under this program?
Under this program.
Okay. Can you just maybe let's say, besides maybe what NGF is doing?
No, besides SFTAS, local governments are supposed to have their own budgets as well.
Okay.
Because they have legislatures at the local level. And they're supposed to...
Why I made reference to them is the transparency component, the simplistic component.
People talk about the transparency component. Well, let's leave SFTAS aside.
Okay.
I'm a governor.
Exactly.
And take Ekiti as an example. I honestly don't even know what happens to my local government budget until they come to me after they finish their own arrangement. There is a joint allocation committee meeting, just like we have FAC with the Federal Ministry of Finance and the federal authorities. At the local level, when they fund, all I do is act as a conduit. The state just acts as a conduit for transferring their money from FAC to the local government. That's all we do. Okay. At least in my state, and I know in many states, that's what obtains. But the popular impression, unfortunately, it appears to be the one that says, oh, governors just pocket local government funds. It's not possible. You can't.
So if Mr. Shuba, for instance, wants to do an assessment of how it starts working, say, in Ekiti State, your state,
absolutely,
he could as well go to any of the LGAs.
Directly to the LGAs and just get results. Okay, so amount came from FAC to this local government, which is published monthly. How did you disburse it? And then it could be seen. This is what went to first line charge of personnel cost. This is what we spent on capital, and so on and so forth. It's there.
Okay. Let's go to the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, how do states access the performance-based grants? Quite important here.
Well, so you asked a very important question that I wanted to make an input into about the how will this program be sustained. The sustainability of the program is assured because there has been very substantial institutional and legislative system reforms that have taken place already, which will be very difficult to reverse. So almost all the states have passed legislation, including public procurement acts, so there are legal frameworks in place. There's also Fiscal Responsibility Act. There are laws now guiding public debt management in the states. And then they have also developed this consolidated revenue code, which helps them prepare their audited following the requirements of SFTAS. And also, agencies have been established. So there's the Public Procurement Regulatory Agency, there's the Inland Revenue of the states, there's the State Debt Management Department. Those things are not things that a new governor will come and be able to change easily. And the states have seen the benefit of taking this measure. So that's very important. So we're very much assured that this program, even after SFTAS is concluded, that these are already ingrained within the institutions and will carry on. What has been achieved so far? So the first audit that we did in 2018, there were 24 states that meet the disbursement-linked indicators, and they were able to collectively get disbursement of about $120 million US. And then in 2019, this improved to 33 states, and then in 2020, all 36 states have actually met the DLI. So the amount in 2019 was about $239 million US that were disbursed to the states, and in 2020, 692. So the performance continues to improve. And the benefits are there for everybody to see, including these funds are being used to deploy critical infrastructure in the states that are very, very visible. So we're happy that this is happening, that the states are benefiting from this grant from the federal government, which is a loan that we took for the states, and we're confident that we're happy that this is a loan that really justifies the reason why it is taken. And also, going forward, we expect that the states on their own will, without any encouragement or compulsion from anyone, will be doing these things as a matter of routine. That is very important. To the extent now that there are budgets in the public domain, the citizens have an instrument that they can use to ask informed questions of their governments, whether at the state or the local government level. It's going to be living within the system. And like the Shubham said, I do hope the citizens realize that this is eventually for their benefit, that they now have data that they can use to ask informed questions of their state governments and their local governments. It was not available before. You can only complain without any statistics. But now the data is there, the budgets are there, the budget performance is in the open, the audited financial statements are also published. So the citizen is equipped. Now, civil society organizations have already started picking up this information and using it, and it will help put everyone on their toes so the performance is sustained.
Turn after the break, a couple of tweets have come in and our phone lines are open. We sustain the conversation tonight. Stay with us.
Should not mask your beauty. The primary purpose of a face mask is to protect the wearer from bacteria, dust, pollen, and viruses such as COVID-19. But now that face mask has become part of our daily wardrobe and accessories, Transgreen Nigeria Limited is introducing O-Care colors. O-Care medical face mask now comes in different colors to match your unique style and different attires. O-Care medical face mask is comfortable to wear, easy to breathe through, and does not leave marks or rashes on your face and can be specially branded to suit your taste. You can get your O-Care medical face mask today from pharmacies and supermarkets near you. O-Care.
Protection you can trust. O-Care.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned and back on the program. A couple of tweets are here and I will take phone calls if they are true to us. Let's begin with this particular tweet coming from at Umen Nadi. It is directed at the governor here and the honorable minister. Beginning with the governor, it says, please, to the governor and the honorable minister, up till date, I can tell you that the masses still sees it that with all this fiscal transparency and accountability, the result is still not commensurate to the fiscal projects. How do you explain that to us?
Well, I think if people don't have a picture of what is actual rather from what is perceived, we owe them a duty of more information. We need to communicate more and give information that is independently verifiable. Okay. So that's all I can tell him. If he's speaking about a specific project, the different matter, but if it's a generalized perception that whatever governors say they've done is not commensurate with what they see, well, I think he needs to treat it on a state-by-state basis and on a specific project basis. That would be my advice. But yes, generally, there's a deficit of trust. I talked about that earlier. And we need to keep working on gaining the confidence of the public as to what we do. But, you know, SFTAS is not a project-tied support. It is a generalized budget support. Because the World Bank is not like an education loan that a state gets from the World Bank. We may well end up using the money from SFTAS for education or for rural roads or whatever, but it's not tied. Okay. It's general funding, general support for the budget as defined in the budget, because it needs to be recognized in the budget. And if you look at all of our budgets, you will see SFTAS contribution just as you will see contribution from bond or other loans in the budget formation.
Okay. Let's switch to the Honorable Minister. How do you react to the tweet? The audio from the source is a bit challenged. I believe if they put that through, we'll get back to the Honorable Minister to react. Well, quickly, I think this particular tweet is directed at Mr. Shubham. Buba Yaze says, for those who witness it, it will never pray any reoccurrence of such ugly trend. IMF Structural Adjustment Program makes country valueless, and IGR suffers unemployment strife, dictate powers too, making people accept poverty as rootness when one seeks help. Do you understand the tweet?
I think I understand it, but I don't hear the question.
Okay. The question basically is trying to compare the IMF days and what you're doing currently.
I see. Well, the IMF, so let me not speak about the IMF.
Okay.
I can speak for what, and let me not even speak about what the World Bank may have been perceived to do in many countries in the past. Focusing on what we're trying to do here in Nigeria at the moment, it's very clear. And I, as the country director, bear real responsibility and feel that responsibility, which is to help Nigeria make progress, to realize its potential, by one, eliminating, lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty, as is the goal. But beyond that, it's about improving the lives of, all Nigerians, and in particular the, more than 50% or 42% who are in poverty right now, or are, even if they're not in poverty, are close to poverty and vulnerable and are feeling the effects, are not able to realize their economic and other aspirations. I think that's what we're here to do. We work, but we don't come in as donors. We work through government to help government deliver to the people. Are we getting everything right? Probably not. But that's where I think the transparency, the emphasis on transparency is so important. And the one promise I can make is we don't have secrets about what it is that we're here to do or how we're trying to help. Whether it's helping or not, we would love to hear from the public. But that's what we're here about.
Okay.
I don't think, there are all sorts of issues we can raise about structural adjustment programs and how international development funding has impacted on nations, particularly in Africa. But I think what I would like us to, the flip side of that is, we have to take responsibility. programs get imposed on you when you don't have an agenda. If you come into office with a clear development plan of your own and you shop it around, including to the World Bank, I mean, and this has happened. We've gone to Shuberman, to his predecessors, to say, look, these are our priority. This is what we would like you to support, not what he chooses to support. And I think that's really where this should go back to. Yeah. What is our agenda as a country? We say we want to take 100 million people out of poverty, and we go to him as a representative of the World Bank to say, this is what we want to do. And he says, well, I can help you, but I also think you need to address some of these fundamental public financial management issues in order to get to that goal that you've set for yourself. It's then up to you to say, okay, I would work within the spectrum of those issues you've raised, or no, that is considered by me as an imposition. I want to go and do it my own way. So when I think it's beating about the bush when we raise all these shibboleths around this is how we've been manipulated. World Bank is not, with the greatest respect, it's not USAID, it's not UKAID. We are World Bank, we're part of World Bank. Okay. We are shareholders in the World Bank. So we also have a seat at the table, and we contribute to the processes that the country director is implementing on the ground here in Nigeria. And I think we bear some part of responsibility for that. But I think we need to start from our own agenda. We need to be clear about what we want for our people and then seek help where necessary.
Okay, maybe just to expatiate on what the tweet is talking about, could you also maybe educate Nigerians the perspective of adaptability? What comes and is adaptable? Thinking globally, acting locally.
Yeah, it's not everything that World Bank is pushing that we do. Context matters. The local context always matters. One thing that I know there's been some contestation over is subsidy. You know what the debate has been around subsidy in this country, particularly subsidy on electricity tariff, subsidy on gasoline, even multiple foreign exchange rates. So those are issues that require contextualization, but there are also issues that would enable us to have a consistent and clear-sighted economic policy position that others outside can then respond to, depending on where we're coming from. So if we insist that we're not going to deregulate, there are implications to that in terms of those that we want to support us. And there are also implications to that in terms of our anti-poverty strategy that we want to put in place, because the resources that's likely to come from there, today, NMPC tells us it subsidizes between 100 billion to 120 billion naira. That's money that should go into the Federation account and then disbursed in order to tackle that poverty that we consider a major priority for our government to deal with. So it's a balancing act. Okay. Do we keep in that poverty situation and keep pretending that the people are the beneficiaries of this subsidy that we're keeping on, when the people ultimately are going to be the losers?
Okay. Well, we just hope the minister's audio has been restored, but before then, our first caller tonight is calling from Lagos. Femi, Hello, Femi.
Hello, good day to all of you.
Good evening.
Yeah, I want to ask the governor.
Go ahead, please.
When you have a project, we are talking about transparency. You are doing a project of 30 kilometers. There's nothing that stops you from putting a signboard. This is a project we are doing from social place to social place. This is the completion date. This is how much we are going to spend on this project. That is transparency. There is no transparency in our government. That is why we, the followers, are skeptical about them. Number two, as a governor, what has he been able to do? Because to make sure he improves the economy of his state. If we look at what El-Rufai said of recent, you find out that all the money, the tax, and everything we collect is being used to pay civil servant salary. What are they doing about that thing? We have, for example, in Kaduna, the man said he has 9 million people in his state. Civil servants are just 100,000. The whole money he collects from the federal government, both tax and everything, cannot even pay the salary of the civil servant. What are the things they are going to do? That I'm directing my question to the governor. How do you, because if you don't make money, you cannot spend money. When they have already, you have your state, how do you improve the people so that you can tax them, which is not happening? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Femi.
I'm not quite clear. I think the audio is not very good, but the gist I get from what he's saying is, what are the opportunities being created for the people, wealth creation opportunities, rather than dependence on salary earners, on the basis of what...
also I'm going to timelines, meeting timelines too.
Meeting timelines of contracts?
Yes, of projects, yes.
Of projects. Yes. Well, for timelines, I think it's a project management responsibility and availability of resources. You need to be clear when you are starting the project that you have enough resources to implement the project, and you've given it to a reliable contractor to handle, depending on the complexity of the project. And then you monitor your capacity and the capacity of your officials to monitor milestones and ensure that payment is tied to those milestones is what would eventually pay off at the end of the day in terms of project cost and project time frame. Okay. That is how we conduct our own in Ekiti State. On his second question, it's a perennial challenge. I'm not going to sit here and say we're all not confronting that challenge that my colleague, Governor of Kaduna State, spoke about, which is that the bulk of the resources that we spend go on recurrent expenditure, particularly salaries. But it's an invidious choice, really, because at the end of the day, yes, they are, in most cases, 2-3% of your entire population, at most 5%. And you certainly could do with fewer number of people in your public service. There's no state that could not do with fewer numbers. Okay. But you also are confronted with a situation in which you have to see this as a social security. Okay.
All right.
For the people.
Let's just, I hear the signals are up so that you can react to the tweet. Then we'll come back to you. Honourable Minister, I'm sure you followed through the discussion. Sorry we had to cut you off because we lost signals on your audio. How do you react to some of the tweets that are coming, and mostly the one that was addressed to you and His Excellency the Governor State here?
still not good.
Delivery. Projects in Nigeria are delayed because we start so many ambitious projects at the same time, and there's always limitation of resources. I do hope that we get to a point, and this is something we're pushing from our ministry, that we take fewer projects in our budget. So now I'm talking of the federal budget, so that we are able to complete those projects in time. Because the consequences of what we're doing now is that projects overrun, and we end up having to do variations of the projects because of time, and it's costing the government more. So all of us, federal and state governments, need to really become more efficient. The unfortunate thing is there's a lot of public expectation and politics attached to project development across the country. Everybody wants to see some federal government projects in their own community, or at least in their local government. And we end up having 10,500 roads in the federal budget. And a road that is going to cost, let's say, 25 billion has a provision of 500 million in the budget. So, of course, we know that that project will take a long time to finish. So, yes, it has to do with project management. Yes, it has to do with selecting the right type of contractors, but it also has to do very much with the way we plan our projects. And I do hope we get to a point when we face reality and just limit the number of projects we deploy so that we complete the very important things. On the issue of staff salaries, just like the states, the federal government is also carrying a very large wage bill, which we have to continue to sustain, because when an economy is slowing down or has slowed down and is struggling to pick up, it's not the time we want to address the issue of disengaging staff, because we will just be putting more people in hardship, and the president had directed that we must pay salaries and we must maintain the payroll as it is. So we continue to carry this until a time that we're able to design programs to support the public servants, so that even on their own, they want to exit and go and become entrepreneurs. So we have to retool them, instill them, train them, and support them with financing, as in low-cost loans, that they can go and start other businesses when they exit the service.
You have touched on it briefly. What is your assessment regarding compliance by states? And one big question, like you have said, Nigerians always ask when it has to do with projects. What is the rationale for additional financing of $750 million just approved by the Senate?
Rationale is for the reforms that the states have started to be sustained, especially at a time where we had this pandemic that has set quite a lot of things, to be honest, back. So just as the federal government also had to seek for support, the states also are being supported by the federal government by this second part grant to enable the state to sustain the reforms that they have started, fiscal, financial management reforms that have the impact of improving the IGR, enabling them to continue to run the states in a manner that is beneficial for the citizens. So we're doing this because it's important, and because we've seen the benefit from the first phase, and we are desirous, all of us in the states, of maintaining those benefits and giving the states more time to properly institutionalize this processes, and to invest more in the health sector, which is one of the major requirements of the second part response. The major requirement is that they must have a clear COVID-19 response plan including social spending, including investment in the healthcare system, so that they can support the citizens in the states.
Of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, it was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
And quickly, our second caller tonight is calling from Abuja, Abdullahi. Hello, Abdullahi.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Our guest in the studio, my regards to the governor of Ekiti State, my first governor in Nigeria.
Good evening.
Minister of Finance. Oh, Minister, I'm sorry. I am Radio Abdullahi Bajar calling you from Guarumpa, Abuja. Mr. Governor, I just want to ask a simple question. Direct to my friend. My point is that what is the governor's 36 and capital territory are ready to do? More especially, I don't see anything on the ground that APC governors is doing. I'm the member of APC. I'm the indigenous of Plateau State. Yes, there is contract with the gift from Kanam local government to Wase, Zira. Past my junction to my village. Yes, my people are benefiting from this project. Most of the workers of that place is from my village. Mr. Governor, is federal government commissioning a 25 kilometers road in Nigeria? And where? I want to know the real road, all right, 10 kilometers road, that federal government commissioning it in Nigeria. Number two, what is happening up to now? Judiciary are on the strike. Workers everywhere protest. Local government autonomy hang off the neck of the governor. What are you going to do to give the autonomy to the local government, judiciary, and the State House of Assembly? Mr. Governor, Mr. President is my best candidate, 2015 and 2019. There is some other countries that call our president is lackless president. They never finished their 4 years.
Okay, thank you so much. That's the much we can take from the caller from Abdullahi. Well, I think clearly what can make of is if he talks about local government autonomy and judiciary. I think the other aspect he went off track. We're looking at state transparency and accountability.
That's what I thought.
Maybe you could just
but on the one, although that's not why I'm here,
yeah,
I'm happy to talk about it. And we've repeated this for the up-to time. Governors, at least under the auspices of the Nigerian Governors Forum, are not averse to judicial and legislative autonomy. We are for it. We have met with representatives of the legislature and the representatives of the judiciary, and we've all agreed on that principle. What remains a sticky point has been an implementation modality. Even that has been sorted out now, and the Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment is supposed to enter into a final crossing of the T's and dotting of the I's with the representatives of the unions. But as far as we are concerned, as governors, we have nothing against judicial and legislative autonomy. Local government autonomy is a different kettle of fish because that is not in the Nigeria's law as of today. The alteration that has made possible judicial and legislative autonomy is not the same with local government autonomy, because when it was placed before the various assemblies, only 10 states, if I recall, actually ratified it. And you know what the amendments of the Constitution says. It has to be 2/3 of the states. 24 states must ratify local government autonomy for it to be enshrined in the Constitution of Nigeria.
Thanks so much for that explanation. Well, to sustain the conversation, we'll take the remaining 2 reports when we come back. The tweets are still here to be addressed by Mr. Shubab and the governor of Ekiti State here in his capacity as the chairman of Nigeria's Governors Forum. We begin with that from Calabar, Cross River State.
Cross River State became eligible for the SFTAS program after meeting some requirements from the World Bank, some of which are passing its budget within a specified period of time and publishing its audited financial statements for the preceding year, as well as hosting same on its website. The state government got $20.4 million in grants for both the calendar and additional finances for the year 2020 to support the budget of the state after embarking on serious measures to refine its financial system despite prevailing challenges.
Last year, Cross River State, out of the 9 disbursement-linked indicators, achieved 6. These 6 disbursement-linked indicators ranged from activities we carried out over the course of the year. Cross River State undertook a very rigorous fiscal overhaul to ensure that we performed very well in the SFTAS program for last year. This overhaul constituted of a rejigging of our budgeting process to increase transparency. We automated and strengthened our IGR collections to increase the revenue collections.
The 4-year duration of the SFTAS program, which is in its 3rd year, has not only enabled the states to benefit through accountability and transparency, but it has also given it the capacity to implement global best practices in public finance and administration.
Fiscal health of the state, it is in our best interest to domesticate this best practice. It's a brilliant initiative of the federal government. We thank the World Bank for its support in the program. We ask for more program for rewards such as this. Cross River State, I think, performed well last year. We intend to do even better this year.
The World Bank-funded federal government program for results seeks to reward states for implementing policies and programs to improve fiscal and financial accountability, debt sustainability for the overall interest of the state and its residents.
And our last report tonight is coming from Sokoto.
Of federal government to further enhance transparency and accountability in the use of public resources through the implementation of the Open Government Partnership, which Nigeria signed in July 2016 and will cover the fiscal performance of states between 2018 to 2021. Sokoto State is one of the states that adopted the program due to the political will of Governor Aminu Waziri Tambol in ensuring prudent management of public resources. In compliance with the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, Sokoto State has also adopted the use of international public sector accounting standards in its annual budget. As one of the states that is taking advantage of the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, Sokoto State was able to pass into law a bill which established the present Sokoto State Internal Revenue Service, replacing the defunct Sokoto State Board of Internal Revenue, and was assented to by Governor Aminu Waziri Tambol on December 31st, 2019, while 41 billion naira was raked in as internally generated revenue from 2017 to 2019 as an achievement after joining the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program.
With the introduction of the ETAS portal, efficiency in collection has greatly been enhanced. Now taxpayers can pay their taxes and all government MPA dues from the comfort of their home and we immediately issued an automated receipt. The revenue service is now more than ever positioned to generate sufficient revenue to service, inshallah, not only our waste bill, but our demands in the near future, inshallah, Excellency.
Another good news for Sokoto State was in January 2001 when the World Bank granted the Sokoto State government $22 million for its commitment to the implementation of the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program. A breakdown of the grant shows that the state got $5 million in November last year for approving COVID-19 budget and the balance of $17.4 million for its 2019 fiscal performance. The government clinched the grant after its astronomical score in the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability ranking from 2/5 in 2019 to 14/15 last year, which put it among the top 3 states in the country to achieve such ranking. In Sokoto, Shehu Muhammad Datti, NTA News.
The report from Sokoto is the last for tonight on the program, but quickly, Umar has been on the call. Umar is calling from Kaduna. Hello, Umar.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, just wanted to acknowledge one of my tweets have not been read, and it has to do with just of recent what have happened in the fiscal, of which the minister is responsible to respond. Also, I wanted to ask about where are the plight of human resource management? You talk of infrastructure. What of human resource management? Does it have to silence and die off? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Umar, I'm sure if you are following the program, we are still taking tweets. We will still get to your tweet. Well, Mr. Shuba, you want to react to that? Human resource management, before I take allow His Excellency to speak.
I think there are 2 parts of it. Human resource management within government, within the public sector,
yes.
I think His Excellency, the Governor, will speak about.
Yeah, okay.
And human capital, human resource management from the perspective of a country.
Yes.
I said earlier, it's about investing in the human capital of Nigeria's children, youth. So that's very much a priority for us. For the governors, I'm sure human resource management.
Okay, Your Excellency.
Well, clearly, human resource management is a big aspect of this entire program. And over the course of the last 2 years that it's been on, at least in the states that I've monitored closely, a lot of capacity building initiatives have taken place. Some within our own premises in the Governors Forum. States send their accountants, their auditors, their administrative officers responsible for different aspects of SFTAS to undergo capacity building exercises. And then they go back home and organize train the trainers programs for their colleagues on the ground. Because many of the laws that we've put in place, be it the Public Procurement Act or the Debt Management Act or the Fund Management Initiative, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, they have implications on capacity building. Okay. And that has been a significant part of SFTAS that I think ought to be commended as well.
Okay. So let's now go to the remaining tweets before we sustain other aspects of the conversation tonight as we wind down gradually. This one says, at GIFT, change that happens from bottom, that's the local government, to top is usually more effective, sustainable, and measurable. You want to react to that?
Well, that is the assumption. Yes, we all love to talk about bottom up, or rather than top-down changes. But the history of local government administration in our country has not been a palatable one. And I think the debate is still out there as to whether we should continue to keep local government in its current form or return it to being part of the state system, so that we have a 2-tier federation rather than this artificial separation between states and local authorities.
Okay. Nachuku is calling from Port Harcourt. Hello, Nachuku.
My name is Nabuchi. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
Go ahead, please.
Greet everybody.
Good evening.
My question goes to the governor.
Go ahead,
Honorable Governor, my question goes like this. Since they born me for this country, since I born in this Nigeria, I never achieved anything in this country. Now, what bank give us money to use and help poor people? Now, since they're rich now, nobody achieve anything. Our governors use our resources and solve their own problems. The poor man is still suffering. My governor, my question goes this like this. I'm begging you, my governor, I beg, let our rich men help the poor people. Let poor people stop suffering. That's why I say that I want to beg you people, governor, help the poor people. Help us.
Thank
That's
you.
my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to react to that.
Thank you, Mr. Port Harcourt. I'm sure that I speak for all my colleagues, including the governor of your state, if I say that that's our job. Our job is to help our people, but our best may not be good enough for the people. But we would have to continue to do our best. But you also have an option there. The option is to jettison governors that you think are not doing enough to meet the demands of the citizenry. That's your social contract. That's the responsibility you bear to organize in such a manner that governors that have not lived up to your expectation are allowed to step aside by voting them out of office, and you bring in people that you think can do better. But within the context of the time that they're in office, you must continue to hold our feet to fire. You must continue to ask us questions and insist on what SFTAS sets out to do, which is run the state in a transparent manner as possible and be accountable to the citizens of the state on all aspects of governance. If you think we're not doing enough, you must call us to question. That's why we're there. We're elected. We're not dictators.
Okay. Thank you. I believe he has some satisfaction. And the last tweet for to discuss the matter is coming from Obinna. It cannot be overemphasized that education remains utmost importance across many areas in Nigeria. In governance, there is need for citizens to be enlightened on governance processes, public policy.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with Obinna. Yeah. And I said it earlier, that communication by us as leaders and by the institutions we've put in place is so central to this process. Part of what is responsible for the trust deficit that we're experiencing is that we do not give enough information, and even when we give information, it ends up being an information overload that is unintelligible to the average citizen who needs to know what is it that we've promised to do, how have we done it, how far we have gone, have we met everything we said we would do, and if we haven't, what is left? How do we want to tackle the remaining aspects of the task at hand? I think we can do a lot more to educate, enlighten, and inform the populace, and we must look for the best tools to do this. In the social media age, there's also a problem with that, because the Twitter generation don't have enough time for you to break down all of what you're doing, and the patient is also not there. The attention span is very limited. So we must keep honing the approaches that we use, and the people must keep demanding for information and education on what their government is doing.
Okay. We have a caller from Kogi State. Hello?
Hello?
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Idris from Kogi State.
Okay. Go ahead, Idris.
I'm the Commissioner of Finance for this state.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
The program now is for 2 years, 2018-2019. And Kogi State is the best. It has the highest point. And now no mention was made of Kogi State. They have the highest point. I'm not happy about that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not happy about that. I must express my feelings. I'm watching the program. His Excellency and the Two Excellency are saying good evening.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad it's giving information about the program as far as it concerns Kogi
State, yes.
But it wasn't my understanding at any point this evening that you were looking at a list of...
Not at all, not at all.
That you didn't ask.
Yes.
I think you certainly didn't ask me to
exactly.
come here with a list of performance or who is the best or not the best. There are different DLIs.
Absolutely.
And states definitely will perform differently.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the totality of the DLIs to be able to know who or which state performed highest. It may well be that Kogi did.
Even the reports, the commissioner, if you're understanding, the reports, we try to spread it. We can't take all reports across the entire country. We took reports from Jigawa, Ebonyi, Cross River, and Sokoto. That does not mean these are the best states. It's just to sustain the conversation tonight.
Okay. So, because I think it's important for
yes,
you to know that.
So it's not about ranking here tonight, but just looking holistically at states' fiscal transparency and accountability project in Nigeria. Hope you are satisfied with our explanation tonight. Well, quickly, let's go to Mr. Shubab. When we want to start a workshop or a process, we have expectation, and along the line we weigh, where are we with it? And sometimes we say, okay, did we achieve it? Would you say really that this project has gone somewhere and truly by the time maybe the lifespan ends sometime, someday, would have impacted on the economy?
I think the way I would describe it is that it's really planted a seed, and that seed has not only germinated, it's starting to flourish. Is the tree fully grown yet? No, I think it's not something that happens over 4 years. Okay. And one thing I would point out that this is different from a program that directly supports healthcare or education. This is also different from a program that directly helps a government build roads. Those are tangible things that are felt immediately. This is a much more foundational program. And the whole point of this is Nigeria needs to build lots of roads. Nigeria needs to, provide basic health care to all its citizens. At this point in time, the states and the government are not able to fully do that, partly because of the scarce fiscal resources. So until you solve that underlying problem of how do states better manage their fiscal resources, improve the quality of public spending, you won't get the more tangible things that ordinary citizens will feel. So I don't want to overpromise that this program is going to, end up with, new roads where, community is looking for a new road or a new power connection. This is about a longer term investment. How do we help states that I said right at the outset are absolutely critical to, helping ordinary Nigerians, kind of thrive and are able to grow, become educated, become healthy, productive citizens. States are key. This program is about making sure or helping the states spend better, have more resources, and deliver better. Okay, it's foundational in that sense.
Okay. Your Excellency, within the Nigeria's Governors Forum, are you thinking towards maybe doing a critical thinking amongst yourself to relaunch back in terms of how best can I put it now? We have gone this far. If we need to move on the next leg, which is maybe 750 million which has not been approved, how can we do it differently as a collective?
There are lessons learned even from this exercise so far. One of the things I must say is it's been a major objective of the Nigerian Governors Forum to encourage and push the bank, particularly, and many of the other development partners equally, to take subnationals as a major vehicle for development agenda delivery. Okay. And I think this is what has happened with SFTAS. Of course, World Bank deals directly with sovereign. Nigeria is the sovereign. We are not sovereigns. But increasingly, if you want to get the kinds of results that we're all looking out for, you cannot do it by just focusing on the federal government. You must really also focus on states in a manner that you can get foundational results, but also get tangible benefits in terms of projects. That's something that I believe SFTAS has somewhat achieved with this. Scaling up, which is your question about what do we do with the $750 million. Yes. I believe one of the DLIs we're going to be focusing on is local government budgets, the one we talked about.
Yes.
We'll also be doing something about land use management, geographic information system, property use, property management, because these are vehicles for poverty reduction themselves. These are assets that have not been valued properly, which this particular DLI would enable states to, through the use of technology, to take advantage of. And also COVID-19 pandemic-related focus of the $750 million is something that would enable us, as we're getting out of this pandemic-induced recession, begin to look at alternative ways of repurposing our funding and also refocusing our energy on accelerated vehicles for poverty reduction in the country.
Okay. Now, we still have one or two tweets before we take our final closing thoughts. Salim Ahmed 16 says, how are Nigerian governors ensuring the optimal use of the World Bank funding in the face of insecurity situations that the governors are unable to tackle?
Good question. Really good question. There's no doubt that in many of our states...
Let me just add this at once so you react to it too. Ladi Eti says, does the Governors Forum have a stance on the pandemic gate issue, considering clear... Well, this is not about this issue now. Let's talk about... you can react to it.
Okay.
The former one.
The former one is about security.
Yes.
There's no question that there are projects that are bound to fall behind schedule because of the security situations. There are contractors that are being kidnapped too. There are workers on the field that are confronting challenges. Yes. Even, I'm not speaking for the World Bank, but I'm sure there are areas in which World Bank would necessarily want to go and evaluate their projects, but they now have to do it virtually because they can't go to some of these areas where you have security challenges.
Yes.
That has implications, clearly, for project delivery. So I can't sit here and tell you that it really wouldn't matter to us. Of course it does matter to us, but we still have to figure out the best way to secure those who are working on our projects and still meet our obligations to our supporters and as well as to our citizens. We just must figure out how to do it in order to ensure that we live up to the expectations of the people. But overall, with regards to SFTAS, it would form a critical component of our own original peer review mechanism, because the Governors Forum actually has a peer review mechanism. And how we perform in this, the lessons we've learned from this, would contribute to our entire governance framework and how to deepen the process in future.
Okay. How do we reduce the cost of governance and also get productivity for the civil servants?
Hey. Big one. Well, how do we reduce the cost of governance? Well, technology is one area that many of us are focusing on. Efficient delivery of services is another. Increased collection of our revenue is also another, the IGR component. All of these are associated with SFTAS.
Absolutely.
Everything that I'm saying. But for now, we are victims of our situation. And the inefficiencies in the system are not things that cannot be corrected. We need to retrain and retool our civil servants to meet the challenges of the moment. We also need to skill our populace, particularly younger ones, to prepare for the jobs of the future, which will necessarily involve training in artificial intelligence, in automation, in vocational skills building, some of the areas that World Bank is supporting in its human capital development investment. Those are the things that we need to do. Yeah. But we also need to figure out how to reduce some of the waste. And there is a lot of waste that we must tackle, even in our political processes. We cannot be fully absolved of that, even as governors, but we have to keep working on it. SFTAS is helping to deal with some of those leakages, but it should also be part of our own agenda for change to say, whatever I can do for 10 naira, why do I want to do it for 100 naira?
Mr. Shubab, how has the World Bank coped with the global governance challenge occasioned by COVID-19?
I think it's not been easy. I think His Excellency the Governor mentioned, and just in terms of the travel restrictions, our ability to engage directly with the communities, with the government partners in different parts of Nigeria. So let me speak about Nigeria, but this is replicated in all the 120 countries where we have similar offices. So I think that's just a fact. Travel restrictions, our ability to directly go out and engage, that what actually has occupied our time is how do we best respond to the tremendous needs that our member countries have faced as a result of the COVID crisis. There's been the need on the public health front, there's been the need on the socio-economic front, and in the case of countries like Nigeria, there's also been a need on just the fiscal front because of what the drop in oil prices did to the Federation's revenues. So trying to mobilize our teams, I mean, for many people, the lockdown and the COVID pandemic, especially in the US and other countries, the kind of economic activity slowed down. People, for an institution like the World Bank, we were busier than ever because we're here to try and help our member countries. I think part of what we're dealing with now is, this making sure that when there's a need for financing, that we are there, we help, but at the same time ensure that what I said before, that the financing is used for the purposes they were intended, that the value for money is there. So it's like, you see the need, but you also want to be sure that the funds are robustly spent for the benefit of the people. So